From ABC News Radio, KMET 1490 in Southern California. This is BizNinja Entrepreneur Radio with your host, Tyler Jorgensen.
Welcome out to BizNinja Entrepreneur Radio. I am your host, Tyler Jorgensen, and today I get to have a friend of mine on the show, and that's always fun because it's a little bit more natural conversation. Sometimes talking to strangers is scary. But today we get to have Christopher Voss, the father of 9, the entrepreneur's magician, and the founder of ROR University. Welcome out to the show, Chris.
Hey, Tyler, great to be here. Thanks for having me on.
I am excited because one of the funny things about when you get to know someone is you don't hear their journey linearly, right? You just learn bits about them. Like you just learned some new stuff about me, about my, challenges I had in business years ago. And so as we learn and uncover, it's like, wow, we get to relearn who they are as we go. So today we're going to share a little bit of your journey. Let's start with my favorite question. When did you first realize that you are an entrepreneur?
I was 8 years old.
Okay.
Young age.
What
Young
happened?
age. So I got into magic. Magic attracts little kids, and I got my first magic kit, and loved it as all kids love magic. And my mom's hairdresser said, "Hey, can your son do a magic show for my son's birthday party?" And my mom asked me. I'm like, "Yeah." She gave me, I think it was like $20, and to me back then at that age, $20 was like I was gonna go buy a jet. I was like, yeah. It was huge. It was like tons of money, and I'm like, oh my word, I just made money. I went and practiced magic, and they paid me. So then I'm like, I can make a business out of this. And I did. I made a business out of it.
Yeah. I $20 is a lot for a magic show, especially, 75 years ago when you were 8 years old. It was ages. No, but that's awesome. I love that. Yeah, no, you're not that old at all.
I have 9 kids, but I'm not that old. I started young.
That's right. So, business is full of challenges, right? What was the first major business challenge that you faced, and how'd you overcome it?
First business challenge, I did the entrepreneurial thing. I borrowed money from my parents, started a business. I had 5 kids at the time. The economy was 2004, right when the economy in our own state started to go down. And people are like, you're starting your own business when the economy's going down? I'm like, yep. 5, it got worse. 6, it got worse. 7, 2008, August 2008 is when the national recession hit the whole country. And so I borrowed money from my parents to start an advertising agency. I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. And now he wrote a book called Before You Quit Your Job, I think is the title, but he wrote that long after he wrote Rich Dad, Poor Dad, which I wish he would have written that one first.
Yeah.
But that's okay. Robert, your book inspired me. So I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And then a friend of mine was reading Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich. So we exchanged books. So those are the first 2 books that drastically impacted my life. Borrowed way less money than what I should have from my parents to survive, and started my advertising agency out of the extra bedroom in our house. And soup to nuts, we did radio, TV, direct mail, newspaper. Newspaper was used back then. And so that was the failure on that. So did well, had got up to about 7 or 8 employees. Everything was going fantastic. And then when the national recession hit, advertisers, the first thing they get rid of is not their employees, they get rid of their advertising. Gone. Yeah. So if you got someone that's spending $1 million, you make 15% commission on that media buy. So if you have 10 clients go from $1 million to 100,000, multiply that out, you're talking major negative cash flow, no way to replace it. And as entrepreneurs, you throw every bit of equity that you have on the planet. You sell, pawn, whatever, anything you can to save your business. And one thing that Robert said in one of his books is you have to have an exit strategy.
Yep.
I didn't read that yet. I should have had an exit strategy.
Well, you need to have several, right? So there's the exit strategy if it goes well, and then several exit strategies for if it doesn't. So for me, and when I went through the Great Recession, one of the biggest mistakes that I made that I look back on and I tell other people is, like, sometimes you have to pull the ripcord sooner. Like if you wait until you've leveraged every single piece, then not only are you left with a failed business, you're also left without any other leverage. And so, but I made the same mistake, really. And so you learn from it, right? And you adapt. What was the first thing you did when you kind of started to rebuild?
So I went back into the workforce. I went back working for the man and got a job as a marketing guy for a business, grew his business from, 3 to 10 million, $7 million increase, which is great. But, I learned someday from someone, he's like, man, you're building someone else's dreams. You are not building yours.
Right.
You're making that guy filthy rich. He's making lots of money. He's got 9 cars and gazillion houses, and you're doing a really good job at the marketing, but you're not growing
Doing a
your
job.
dream.
Yeah.
So
Right.
I'm like, I need to pivot. So I did.
Absolutely. So you did. And so I think when I met you, you were not yet focusing on the return on relationship method, and you weren't quite doing that yet. You were still figuring out what the next big thing was going to be for you. And so you probably went through several iterations, but currently with you're throwing stones at the ROI and saying it's time to focus on return on relationships. Why don't you explain what ROR is and why it's the better way?
So building relationships is a vehicle to an end. And a lot of things that people don't like to talk about is, it's okay. It's okay to have an agenda. It's okay to have a goal that, boy, I'd really like to work with that person, because if I could work with that person, it would drastically change my business. But in order to be able to do that, first you need to build a relationship with the person. It's just like dating. When I was dating my wife, I was getting her flowers and coming up with all these creative dates that blew her mind. How in the world, she didn't think, well, he's only doing this because he wants to potentially marry me. She was impressed by everything I did for her. And we ended up getting married 9 kids later. So it's the same thing in the business world. Dale
What's
Carnegie
funny
says,
but I think that she did. Like, she knew your intention. Your intention was to see if there was a match. And I think that that's okay, right? It's okay to understand relationships have a mutual benefit. When it's unhealthy is when it is a one direction benefit, right? And no one wants, that's not a good relationship to build, but focusing on mutually beneficial relationships, that's totally okay in business and personal life, wherever, right? What does Dale Carnegie say?
So Dale Carnegie says he says friends, because it's all about, win friends and influence people. But I changed the word friends. But his quote is, you can gain more friends in 2 months expressing an interest in others than spending 2 years trying to get people interested in you. And that's super profound. You can get more relationships, more business deals, more joint ventures, more whatever, if you take interest in others instead of trying to get them interested in what you're doing.
Yeah.
And the other thing, our logo has the 2 arrows that circulate around. And great thing about return on relationship is it's infinite. As long as, like you said, there's a return on relationship, it never ends. It's a circle and keeps going round and round and round. And the circle can just get bigger as all the different opportunities come along for you and the person that you're building a relationship with. There's an exchange back and forth.
Yeah. I think what's fascinating about like networking in general is there is a premise of how do I find more people that can help me, right? But any good networker starts with how can I serve that person? Who can I connect them to? The good networkers, maybe they just knew it intrinsically, or maybe it was an instinct play, but they know that givers gain, right? Like I'm going to start by sowing my seeds like into the marketplace. And then when I need to harvest, I can. And so what you're doing is finding a very deliberate way to like harvest faster, right?
Yeah, they say dig your well before you're thirsty. And right now, with everyone's going through with the economy, things are going on in the world that have never gone on before. It's a crazy time, and people are thirsty. And so the great thing is, I've dug my wells. I have wells all over the place. They're springing forth water. I'm planting and watering. And dig your well before you're thirsty. It's begin with the end in mind, as Stephen Covey says. It's so important. I got through 2020 because of the relationship that I have. I'm alive here today doing this interview with you. And I don't know if you want me to tell that story, but long story short, I watched a webinar of a gentleman by the name of Russell Brunson about 3.5 years ago. Yep, very good man. And if you drew a stick figure on the board of him on the left, and on the right, you drew a picture of a guy by the name of Wallace Nelson, and you drew a bunch of people in between them, I never would have met Wallace if I didn't start following and building a relationship with Russell, and then build a relationship with the next guy and the next gal and the next guy, all the way down. So what Wallace Nelson did for me is, I didn't do on my entrepreneurial journey, when I talked about growing my business and losing that, I didn't take care of myself. I put everyone's oxygen mask on first. I walked around the plane, made sure that everyone sitting on the plane had their mask on nice and tight. I didn't take care of myself. I was overweight, unhealthy, and all that damage to my body. When I met Wallace, he got me on a health and wellness program. He launched a beta group and put me in
I remember.
it.
Yep.
I lost a ton of weight. I got healthy. And July of last year, though, there's a good thing. I had a major stroke. And if the doctor sat on the edge of my bed and he said, I just want to tell you, I know where you were before and I know where you are now. If you would not have lost all that weight, if you would not have changed your life around, your wife would be a widow and your kids would be fatherless. Now, if that's not a return on relationship, there's a return on relationship between Wallace and I. There was a return on relationship between me and Russell and all the people that he introduced me to, because I started following him and showing gratitude to him. And I'm alive today because of that. My wife had tumors diagnosed in the summer, right when the pandemic hit. We found out that she had brain tumors. With everything going on with hospitals, we couldn't get in to see a surgeon on a Zoom call for 3 months. So our relationship reached out to someone else, and we got in with the best neurosurgeon in the state that we live in, and saw him the next day after the phone call, and then left his office with an appointment to have surgery on my wife 2 weeks later. So we had the surgery, and it was going to be another 2 months before we even had a Zoom call with the other surgeon. And that was a return on relationship. My wife had 65% of her skull removed from, I could talk about this without crying.
Sure.
Both of those stories. It's taken me a little bit to do that, but that was a return on relationship. So the reason why I'm so passionate about this, and I want to teach people, this is the thing that they need to be focusing on. This is what they need to be working on, is networking, building relationships. Stop focusing on some of the other things that you are and start focusing right now. Now's the time to do it. So
yeah,
I'm alive. My wife is alive because of the relationship.
Amazing stories. I think there's a lot more. There's so many more like sub stories within that, and yet like life-saving stories is a pretty good place to start. When I met you, you were a bigger man than you are now, right? And just as good of a human, but you've gotten yourself in much better shape and taking care of yourself. What, like when we look at ROR, return on relationships, as a method, as a methodology, right? I think we can go back to Chet Holmes' Ultimate Sales Machine, the concept of Dream 100. How do you apply that into your methodology of like being even more focused, not just going after, because there's Dream 100 or Dream 1000 or Dream whatever, but then they're saying, you know what, I'm going to go focus on these 1, 2, 3 relationships and really focus on those. Where's the bridge, and what does it become the ROR method?
This is kind of a cliche term. You've got the rifle approach and you got the shotgun approach. Dream 100 is it's a shotgun approach. A big blast to a big wide berth to a whole bunch of people. And the ROR method is a rifle approach. That is, you're building relationship just like you are with Dream 100, but you're doing it on a level that is personal. You're getting into the good weeds. You're making a connection with someone. Relationship building is all about turning heads and getting noticed. I mean, how do you stand out from all the other people that are also trying to reach out to the same people that you're trying to reach out to? How do you rise above that? How do you get them to go, holy cow, how did they know that I love X? I don't know how in the world do you know that. So you want to connect. So ROR connects on an emotional level, a part of the brain that is not just, hey, thanks for sending me X, and then they throw it away. It's something that you send to them that they place on their desk and they keep there for years. And every single time they look at it, they think of you. You want to make ROR connects on an emotional level that is an anchor point that will never leave that person. It's not just a quick little thing. It's a major. Dream 100 will explode your business. ROR will take it nuclear. And that's all I can say.
I like that. I love that. That Dream 100 will explode your business, but taking it nuclear. Or like for some people, it's like, man, I'm not ready for massive growth, but I need that one next person to connect with so that I can be more strategic and more, systematic in my next steps. Right. It was really interesting return on relationship and that concept of being very intentional in connecting and networking and not, again, I think there's a massive difference between selfish and self-centered. And I actually believe that selfishness is a virtue and self-centeredness will destroy everybody. Because when you do what's best for yourself, you will by nature not self-sabotage. You'll do what's best and therefore do what's best for others. So putting your mask on first is selfish. It's taking care of yourself, but therefore you can take care of others. It's a long thing to explain, but kind of tying back to one of your early stories, the ROR method and this concept helped me. Like Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad, Poor Dad was one of the very first books that helped me realize the way I saw the world was not abnormal. It was okay. There are other people that think like I do, right? Rich Dad, Poor Dad doesn't give you a lot of practical applications. His other books do, but it is a mindset shift of how to go through life and building pipelines instead of just being an employee your whole life. I recently completed building Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad, Poor Dad Shopify e-commerce store. And to say that like this guy that was legendary in my life became a client of mine was such a really cool full circle that only happened because of relationships. So that was one story I wanted to share. The other one is for those that are watching, not tuning in via audio, I'm showing a massive, gigantic Nerf gun that Chris saw and I keep saying Chris, I think it's Christopher.
Yeah, that's fine.
Christopher saw, I got a new office. I was at the office one night playing Nerf with my kids and I shared it on my Instagram stories. And like a few days later, I started getting these packages and they didn't all come together. It came in like 3 shipments. And I had seriously just been finished saying, man, we need some more ammo. Cause like we have all these cool guns, but you run out of the Nerf bullets. And 100 packs showed up. And I'm like, wow, that was crazy. These smart devices are starting to listen to everything. And then a gun showed up, and then that big blaster showed up, and they were all from Christopher saying, "Hey, Dad needs a little extra firepower. Like, congratulations on your office." And like Christopher and I we're already friends, but like it strengthened the relationship, kept us connected, and such a cool way to do it. So first of all, thank you for that. And second of all, like it absolutely works. Like I've seen the results of maintaining strong relationships, and I've seen it work. Like, so I've seen it work in my business, but I've also seen people applying what you're teaching them. I've seen you doing it. It's really, really cool.
My grandpa, I learned it. I was telling my grandpa, who was 102 years old, about, so when I was starting my business and telling him about what I was doing, what I was teaching, he's 102 years old. Guy was healthy as an ox up until the day he died. This is the guy that stormed the beaches in the South Pacific. He said, I said, hey, Grandpa, his name was Pa. I said, D-Day was really bad. And we talked about all the carnage and all the death on D-Day. And he looked at me, and only someone that went through this could say this. He said, I went through 20 D-Days. I'm like, what do you mean by that? He's like, I rushed 20 beaches where they were shooting at us, and we had absolutely no chance to make it to shore. As he went through the South Pacific and the Philippines, he says, I can't tell you, the number of beaches that he rushed. So this is a guy that has perspective, very well-rounded. And he looked at me and he said, Mutt was my nickname, because my brother's name was Jeff. He goes, Mutt, this is the way I grew my businesses. This is the way I did business. And so with ROR Method, this is the old new way, or this is the new old way of doing business, relationships. He built, he had a TV shop, he had restaurants, and he said, Mutt, the way I got the best meat in my restaurant is over a relationship with a guy that I had, not because I had money, because I had a relationship. So he looked at me, he said, you keep teaching this. And in my office, I have things from him when he died, an old telephone, an old picture of Lauren Hardy. And I have these up in my office to remind me that this is the way that you do business. This is the way that you grow. And I also have this water fountain, not because I want to relax, even though I need to be the father of 9. That water fountain reminds me of a continual flow, that circle of that return on relationship. And so my grandpa, it was awesome to see him look at me and say, awesome job. And then the other thing, I was taught this since I was a kid. My mom used to drop off cookies, pound cakes, fruit cakes to the bank tellers when I was a little kid and the bank manager. Because if you wanted a loan in the olden days, you didn't go on your phone and fill out the phone app on your thing. You went to the bank, you sat with a guy behind the big desk, and you said, would you please loan me some money? That was the old way you did business. And so my mom would ROR everybody in the bank. So if she had a $10,000 check that she needed to cash, and back in the olden days, you had to wait because they didn't have computers to run it through and check it. They would cash it for her because they trusted her, because she had a relationship with them, showed them gratitude. They went to the bank manager. Hey, can we authorize this $10,000 check? Absolutely. For Mrs. Voss, we'll do anything.
Yep.
So I was taught this since I was a kid, and that's kind of where this all came from. And
I love that. I think that's fascinating how many times the things that to us are normal because you were taught it as a kid and it's what you grew up doing, but that's your superpower, right? So oftentimes entrepreneurs get stuck trying to figure out what they should do or because the things that they're so good at, it doesn't seem weird. It doesn't seem abnormal. That's normal to them. But so like for me, I'm really good at ideas. And that's not, I just assume everyone's good at coming up with new ideas and launching new things, right? But a lot of people I know are actually, they get stuck getting started, right? I'm a phenomenal starter. I need finishers, right? But some people are phenomenal finishers. And so anyways, I just think that's interesting. Like that's something your mom taught you, your grandpa taught you, like all these people have taught you. And so to you, it's normal, but a lot of people struggle with that. And I think it's gotten worse in the digital era because of everyone's connected and disconnected, right? You're connected through digital means, but you're more disconnected because even if you look at, we joking around that like Facebook and MySpace, like they killed high school reunions because people will see each other and like, I already know what's going on in your life, but they're not connected, right? The relationship's not strong, but the small talk's gone, right? So like ROR helps you get past the small talk into really strengthening and creating relationships, right?
Absolutely. Me and you had I'm grateful for the opportunity. We've met, we've hugged, we've spent time together, we've talked with my wife,
yep.
And I'm grateful for that. But I have some people in my life right now that I consider best friends, extremely good friends. I've never hugged them. I've never sat foot in a room with them. I've never been face to face. And so that's why ROR is so important, because you can build lasting relationships that are anchored in really true friendships, and you don't have to set foot in a room. And that's something that people are going to have to rely upon right now with everything going on in the world. We're not going to be able to press flesh and hug and get close. Some ways we can, some we can't. I mean, it depends on where you're at, but we clearly know something going on in the world that's crazy. And so with not being able to make that physical connection, you can make connections with people and establish really great business relationships and friendships, and you can be behind your webcam or your phone.
Yeah, it's amazing. Give me one big example outside of yours, outside of mine. Like, how are you doing this for clients? And let's give one of those. And then after that, let's talk about, what people can do with ROR University on it and doing it themselves.
Absolutely. So success, several clients. So here's the thing, and I can prove this if I ever had to. We have 100% success rate. Anybody that we've either helped reach out to someone to get a return and to get a recognition back, or anybody that I've done it with, it's always worked. And the reason it's worked is because you do it the right way. I was being interviewed by someone and he said, hey, how do you know when to ask for help? Or how do you know when to ask, hey, would you consider this joint venture? Or how do you know when to talk to somebody? And I said, you don't have to ask. It naturally happens. And 9 times out of 10, somebody will come to you and say, hey, I was thinking of this morning of this really great idea, and I was thinking of you. Could we hop on a Zoom and talk about it? I mean, what would that mean to your business if people reached out, if people leaned into you? Myron Golden says it's better when people lean into you than push out. And we all push out because people aggressively try and go after you, and you're like, you don't even know my name. You don't even know the name of my kids. How in the world can you ask me how my day is? You have no idea about me. So success, we have a client that we have a service done for you, like you said. So Number one, we teach people how to do this so they can do it themselves. But if you're on a level where you don't have a lot of time, but you have the financial resources to pay someone to do it, it's the equivalent of, when I want to get flowers for my wife, I don't go pick them for myself and put them in a bouquet. I go to a professional florist and have them put it together and make it look awesome. So we put it together. make it look awesome. And we have a client right now that we're reaching out to, is an extremely high profile, very high up the ladder as far as popularity and celebrity status. And we've reached them, and we consider that a gigantic success. Our client considers it a success because those people have reached out to them and said, thank you so much for what you sent. It really meant a lot. Boom, doors open. And if I could say one analogy, the movie Hitch, you got Alex Hitchens and you've got the Albert Brenneman of the world that has the Allegra Coles that they want to meet. And what we do, we're the Alex Hitchens. We'll give someone an opportunity. We'll open the door and give the geeky accountant, Albert Brennemans of the world, an opportunity in FaceTime with their Allegra Coles of the business world. If you haven't seen Hitch, great movie, yeah. And it teaches a lot about business and relationships. But I'm the Will Smith or the Alex Hitchens. We'll help you get connected and open that door for you. After we open the door, you need to take it from there. We'll help you nurture it, but then it's up to you.
Yeah, in the end, relationships don't guarantee like business or results, but you're not going to get the results without the relationship, right? Like it's not going to happen. So people can learn more by going to RORUniversity.com. That's where they can learn how to do it themselves, learn all the secrets of that Christopher and the ROR team they teach. I highly recommend you guys go and check that out. Now you were telling me about this before, but let's bring this back around. To me, business is about creating the lifestyle that you want. It doesn't matter if you have a perfect business and a miserable life and don't get to do anything with it. What is one item on your personal bucket list you're going to do or accomplish in the next 12 months?
Next 12 months, I have a piece of property that I've selected, looked into, and we having 9 kids. You got to think about traveling for us with 9 children is a little bit crazy. So, John or Gaffigan, the comedian Gaffigan says, having my 5th kid, or I can't remember how many kids, it was more than 2. He says it's like, swimming with 2 kids and then it's like treading water with 2 children and then someone throws you a baby. So we've found this lifestyle of RV, and we drove out west with one. We took another. So I have the dream RV that we're going to get. It's amazing. And the thing why it's amazing is when we get to the property, we'll pull up, we'll hook up, we'll get tents out from underneath the storage and set those up for the kids to sleep in.
Yeah.
And we'll stay in the nice RV. So in the next 12 months, and I'd be glad to invite you there. You're welcome to come. It's
I have to bring my own
view
tent
on Lake Michigan. So next 12 months, we're going to acquire that and have a nice place for our family to be able to go and spend time together, because I'm a big family man. Obviously, I got 9 kids.
Yeah, I love that. Please, everyone, please go check out what Christopher is doing at RORUniversity.com. And wherever you are listening, it is your turn to go out and do something.
Thank you for listening to BizNinja Entrepreneur Radio with Tyler Jorgensen. Please make sure to subscribe so you're first to hear new interviews and episodes. If you found this podcast to be valuable, please share it with a friend. Don't forget to visit our online dojo at BizNinja.com to claim your reward for listening to the show.